Traffic has never been this hot. Here we go! Sit back and trip. This is the Traffic Jam with Yams. Cut it.
Welcome to Play to Win, where we bring you 360 degrees of esports coaching. This show will bring you professional esports players, team executives, league owners, celebrities, anybody and everybody that are contributing to the explosive growth of that billion-dollar industry called esports. My name is Charles Gentry, aka The Oracle, and you have tuned in to Play to Win. All right. Mr. DJ Yams bringing us the vibes over there as usual. Well, we have a fantastic show today. Our first guest on Play to Win today is a tech legend. I am Charles Gentry, your host, aka The Oracle, and my guest is Mr. Jacob Miles III. How you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing great, man. So glad to be here on Play to Win.
All right, all right. Well, as I said, we've been practicing all month to get you on here because, you know, you are the man of the hour. So we want to make sure everything's right. All right. Well, I'm going to introduce our audience to, you know, a number of things today. We're going to talk about a number of subjects and kind of just briefly cover some of the things that you've done because, man, you are so illustrious. We can't cover all of it today, you know, but we're just going to scratch the surface here. For those who don't know, Mr. Miles has probably been in your home. You just weren't aware of it, okay? At Kenner, he was the original engineer on the Star Wars toys over there at Kenner. Am I right, Mr. Miles?
Yes.
Okay, so like I said, you're probably in everybody's home, man. They just didn't know it.
In some shape or form.
In some shape or form. Well, you are a toy industry analyst, you know, one of those guys who's an expert in that area. So just, you know, briefly kind of go into that. What was that like? Because we remember, all of us remember those Star Wars toys, you know, and going to McDonald's and, you know, eating a whole bunch of McDonald's burgers and stuff just so we could get the Star Wars toys, pestering our parents, you know. So tell us about that experience, you know. How did that all go down, and then how did you end up as engineer on that project?
Well, it was interesting. Kenner is located in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Cincinnati is also the home to Procter & Gamble. And Cincinnati was an industrial town, and I was born there in the Millville housing projects in Cincinnati, one of those at-risk kids. Mm-hmm. And through the course of mentors and family and so forth, I ended up in an engineering apprentice program for at-risk kids. And out of that program, I went to work for GE Aircraft Engine Group, designing aircraft engines, and I felt like that was kind of boring, mm-hmm. you know, and the headhunter called me one day, and make a long story short, I ended up going to work for the Steiner brothers, who were the founders of Kenner Toys, mm-hmm. And worked with them to develop new toy ideas, look at new toy ideas, and then once we decided it was a good idea, my job was to go build it, go make it work. Right. You know, so So actually, when Star Wars came along, we didn't know Star Wars would be Star Wars. We were hot working on our usual stuff, Play-Doh and Easy Bake Oven and Baby Alive and Sit and Spin and Spirograph and, Give a Show projector and Snoopy toothbrushes and, and we had landed this big thing that was went from 0 to 200 million a year in 2 years, and that was $6 million Man and Bionic Woman.
Right.
So we were riding $6 million Man and Bionic Woman when this guy came to visit us looking for money, and that guy was George Lucas. So I remember our CEO, Bernie Loomis, called me down to a meeting with a few other engineers, and George Lucas was there, and his lawyer was there, and he had a script. So that's when I first got introduced to Star Wars, was by George Lucas and his script. Now, this is not the same George Lucas we know today.
Right.
Back then it was George Lucas. I always tell the story. He was skinny and had 2 roommates. And of course he says, "Jake, you don't have to say I was skinny." But he had the script, and we sat down on the floor as a team and went through the script and talked about the different ships and characters, and our job was to take his ideas and put play value into them, so that they would work as toys, and that's what started me off with Star Wars.
All right. And hopefully there was no one in the room who flipped through the script and went, "This'll never work."
Plenty of those. Well, we weren't sure either.
Right.
We weren't sure.
Right. Who knows, right? Who knows?
Well, I mean, he had been shopping Star Wars all around and couldn't get it funded.
Right, exactly.
So Kenner agreed to give him money to fund the movie for the perpetual toy rights.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And that's one of the best moves they ever made.
The best moves they ever made.
Well, moving down the line, we're talking about esports and that booming industry and everything that's happening there. You're doing a lot of things. One of those things is the new TV network that's coming. Tell us all about Cool TV and what's happening there.
Well, when I look at what I'm doing today with MAP Esports Network, it's really a culmination of all the things I've done over the years. As I worked through the toy industry, at Kenner, we worked with the NFL, the NBA. We did the Batman and Superman. We did Marvel. We did DC Comics. We did Alien, the movie. We did all kinds of fun stuff. And we pioneered licensing in the toy industry.
Right.
And so we also did things like Care Bears and Strawberry Shortcake and so forth. But when we would do those properties, we'd also do the cartoons. So toys have always been the entertainment industry.
Right.
And because what are you doing with a toy? You're entertaining children. So we always saw them as one and the same. We don't make the distinction between toys and children's entertainment or toys and video games. When you're in the industry like we are, we don't make a distinction.
Right.
We let the consumer and the folks outside make those distinctions.
Right.
To us, they all are the same thing. They're all reflections of life. And if you look at films and TV, they are also reflections of life. So that's how we looked at everything. But I left Kenner, went to Tonka Toys, and there where I worked with Bandai and Sanrio, which is Hello Kitty, and Sega. I was on the team that launched Sega Game Systems in America as well. and we did Pound Puppies and GoBots and all that sort of stuff as well, and then from there to Hasbro, and Hasbro toys, and with Hasbro, they're in everything,
right?
With Transformers and GI Joe and all of those types of properties that I'm very excited about. Too many to name.
Right.
Pop culture history.
Right. Exactly.
But I have most of the catalogs from those years, and I have lots of the toys that I've worked on over the years. Never been opened. So they're collector's items.
Right.
I've had several museums call me about them over the years.
Right.
But after I left Hasbro as vice president, I went to started my own toy company, which was Cultural Exchange Toys, focused on nonviolence and focused on helping at-risk kids and focused on toys that reflect minorities. Won various awards, Black Enterprise Award with that company. It was very, very successful and ended up selling it. And then from there, I went to Urban Cool Network.
Okay.
And I founded Urban Cool Network. I can see the red herring on the wall behind me from when we took it public. And that was a urban AOL.
Okay.
And
right.
At that time, Clinton was in office, and Al Gore had his Digital Divide team. I was a member of his Digital Divide team and worked on getting internet and making sure the at-risk kids and inner city communities got on board and had access to internet. So that's been an integral part of my being, having been an at-risk kid, and that's built right into what we're doing with MAP Esports as well. So my television network experience with Urban America Television, Urban Cool Network with the internet, video games with Sega and toys, all of those come together and are inside MAP Esports Network.
All right. You got a big skill set there. We are about to talk about something that I think is going to be just phenomenal, and that is MAP Esports and Esports Future Eye. So let's leap right into that, talking about esports on all these different levels and different platforms. I'm going to let you kind of sum up everything because, as I say, there's so many moving parts there and so much good stuff. I don't want to leave anything out. But let's dig into MAP Esports. Give us your vision of how that came about. And then secondly, go on to tell us about all the components of MAP Esports and Esports Future Eye.
Well, MAP Esports Network really came about as I was doing some research for a client at Miles Analyst Partners. We worked with, which is my consulting company and where I serve as an analyst, and we work with companies all over the world to help them develop entertainment properties, toys, TV shows, children's books, video games, you name it. So I had a client come to me and wanted to do some apps and video games, children's books, and so forth. And so I was doing some research for that project, and I came across esports, and this was about a year and a half ago. I knew about video games, of course, and I knew about competitive video game play, but as Chance the Rapper said, I didn't know it was a thing.
Right. Right.
I didn't know it was a thing, So I was doing the research, and I said, well, let me dig into this esports thing a little more, And so I dug into it, and I was reading a research report that said that it started back in the late 70s with Nolan Bushnell, who was the founder of Atari.
Right.
And Nolan Bushnell held the first public esports tournament at this mall in California. The first esports tournament was at Stanford among some geeks and so forth, but that was contained inside Stanford, not for the public. And so this was the first public esports tournament. And so I'm reading that, and they're talking about the mall, and they're talking about the event, and I'm going, wait a minute. I was there. And I said, wait a minute, I was there. And I was out as a guest of Nolan Bushnell's because we were working with Nolan Bushnell at Kenner to do some electronic handheld games. We were integrating, some of his games into our handheld games, and he was helping us develop toys. And at that time, the leading gaming platforms was Atari, Commodore 64,
Right.
ColecoVision from
Right.
Coleco, Intellivision from Mattel. So again, it's always been the same industry. And so I realized then that I was at the first esports tournament. And I said, well, if I was at the beginning of this thing, I got to get in it. I got to understand it. I got to get in it. So then I reached out to some investment banking friends of mine because they're the best source for research. And I said, man, give me a friend of mine at Goldman Sachs. Send me whatever research you guys got on esports. And then I worked with Nielsen when I was with African American Television Network when I was CEO and chairman of that network, which is a public company. I worked a lot with Nielsen, so I called the Nielsen media research folks and said, send me what you got on esports. And so they sent it to me, and I read through all of it and so forth, and I went, I got to make another run. This is my fourth startup, and I thought I was done, but I could not resist.
Right.
It's so significant and so fit me so well, my history so well. It's a culmination of everything that I've done in this one new industry of esports. So that's what caused me to birth MAP Esports Network. Now, MAP Esports Network is really made up of, I call it 5 divisions, 5 silos, 5 revenue streams. But the company is designed as a traditional network. Just like you see an NBC, an ABC, a CBS, it is a full network. And so when you have a media and entertainment network, you have all the elements of media and entertainment. And so with Esports Future I, we have our content and our events. So our content includes magazines. Right now we have 1, 2, 3 magazines that are in development. We'll have 2 ready at our launch late this summer. And then we had events planned, but we had to put those on hold because of COVID-19,
Right.
And then put more emphasis on online. But so with Esports Future I, it's about the future of esports. So it's focused on the future. It's focused on the industry, and then we break that industry down into segments to whereby you have the consumer products companies or the sponsors, you have the technology companies, which is the supporters, and then you have the fans, as well. So we will have magazines that focuses on each of those areas and content and writers to work with that. We'll also have streaming channels focused on each of those areas. We have a podcast network that's focused on each of those areas. And then that magazine will obviously work in conjunction with the streaming channels. And so that when we bring a celebrity or a gamer, pro gamer on into our network, he can go the whole circuit. He can be in the magazine, he can be on the podcast, He can go over on the streaming channel. No different than someone comes on a Today Show,
right,
and then they show up on the Tonight Show.
Right, exactly.
It's the same process.
Do the circuit, right.
So with Esports Feature our content magazine, we also have our Power Players League, which is our own esports league. Our league is different than others. It's a non-game specific league, 16 conferences, and it also has robotics and coding competitions as well. They have very, very strong STEM and STEAM curriculums built in them. I believe there's 5 curriculums that's built into the gaming training that the kids will go through in the league, and that is focused on helping at-risk kids and disadvantaged communities and giving large corporations the opportunity to sponsor and help those kids in a meaningful way versus just giving them something to eat or just giving them something to sustain them in poverty. We want to give them something that brings them out of poverty. And that begins with giving them exposure, to what's possible. Because if they haven't seen it and they can't imagine it, they can't want it.
Right, exactly.
And so that's where we come in. We're going to add what we call a mentor side to that. And that's why we call them mentor gaming centers are crucial in our Power Players League. They'll also serve as the training facilities and things of that nature as well. So we're very excited about the Power Players League and Esports Future I. And we're also focused on international. We believe Africa also can be a big player in esports. Korea and China and Europe are leading right now, but we believe that we can be a big part of supporting America and putting America in that leadership role in esports.
All right, fantastic. Well, that's been a good picture, giving us kind of a wide spanning view, not only of what MAP Esports is, but also what's happening in the esports industry. It has so many different tentacles reaching out in every direction. For those of you who are tuning in, you are viewing and listening to Play to Win. I'm your host, Charles Gentry, aka The Oracle. My guest is Mr. Jacob Miles III, and he's been walking us through his career that spans from everything from all the toys you probably have played with or your children have played with, all the way up to what's happening now with him, which is esports and his whole MAP Esports kingdom, I call it, because you got so many things going on there, Jacob. Believe me, it's fantastic that we know the numbers. We both seen the same numbers when it comes to minorities and the STEM industries. And we see how low those numbers are in terms of minorities who are a part of that industry. And we know that this is not just the future, but this is right now, those jobs that are happening in STEM. And to be able to do a program that goes in and deals with at-risk kids and helps them, introduces them to the tech industry and to STEM careers is just fantastic, because those numbers have to come up if they're going to have a future that is, in line with what everyone else is going to be doing in the future. We have to get those numbers up. So working with them in terms of esports and in terms of STEM and STEAM programs has to be an integral part of that. So as you say, you are an at-risk kid yourself, but when you looked at the whole landscape of what's happening in terms of careers, especially moving from now into the future, what came to your mind to say, I have to include at-risk kids in this whole process and make them a part of it? What was your thoughts and your thinking on
Well,
that?
you know, my thought, you know, it makes me recall an interview I did with a TV station, and they were asking me a similar question. When you were a little kid, and you were thinking about, you know what you want to be when you grow up and so forth. What did you want to be then?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, a pimp.
That's what you saw.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wish you could have seen their faces.
Not the answer we were looking for.
Yeah, not the answer we were looking for. But I said, when I sat on my stoop in the projects, you know, the pimp had the nice car, he had the pretty girls, you know, and he was always nice to me. I always had money,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And
Right.
you know, he was the man. Everybody was, you know, friendly with him. Hey,
Right.
what's going on? You know,
Right.
and dapping everybody up.
Right.
You know, I said, oh, this guy got it going on.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and then that comes back to the average kids. You cannot want. You only know what you know.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You can't want what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and seeing it on TV has never been real for us.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing it on TV was Ozzie and Harriet,
Right.
my three sons.
Right. Leave it to Beaver.
Leave it to Beaver. You know, and
Right.
Bonanza.
Right.
You know, and I love those shows. I grew up on them.
Right.
You know, I love them.
Right.
But I never confused TV with that's what that I'm looking at to say, oh, I can go do that.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the case.
Right.
You know, obviously when Julia came out, that was a whole other story. I went, oh, hey, he's cute. You
Right,
know,
right.
You know,
Right.
you know what I mean? But then again, she's still in a white world. Her interactions were all with white people.
Right. Right.
You know, so,
Right.
You know, the projects that I grew up in, I had 40,000 people in them, and 100% black.
Mm-hmm.
And it was built in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was just us.
Right.
You know, the schools were located in there. Wasn't no stores.
Mm-hmm.
We had a roller market, old dilapidated school bus that would come around with cold pop and stale chips and bread that the mice done ate out of.
Right,
you
right.
know, and so day-old bread that it
Right.
went and bought and trying to resell.
Right, right.
You know, and so forth. But I didn't know I was poor. I didn't know that this was not the way everybody lived because I went to school. The school was right there.
Everybody's in the same boat. Right.
It was, and as far as I could see, it was just like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I thought this is just the way it is.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and it was cool. I mean, I had no problem. There's pretty little young girls around there I could play with, and my boys. You know, to play basketball, do whatever. You know, the food. I mean, the government at that time brought the food by once a month in a truck. You know, because wasn't no food stamps, so you get a can of chopped beef, a can of Spam, big old block of cheese, powdered milk, powdered eggs.
Right.
We called it fallout shelter food.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
You know, but Mama made it taste good. Mama made it taste good. You know, the cheese eggs were the best. I still love cheese eggs.
Okay. Okay.
But so you can't envision, you can't want, you can't dream what you don't know.
Yeah.
What you haven't seen, what you haven't experienced. You know, and so that's what drives me, is to really give them exposure. You know, and once you change the thoughts and the visions inside a child's head, a child would start doing the things to get to that point and accomplish that. They just got to know, you know, where they're trying to go.
Right. Right.
You know, they got to know where they're trying to go. And, you know, and so that's my inspiration pretty much in everything that I do. in my speaking with kids and in this company, because my thought was, with my background, my experiences, the successes that I have had, that allow me to fund the build out of the infrastructure. If I did not do it with my experience and my background,
Right.
who was going to do it?
Right. Right.
You know, and I know when I came up through as an engineer in the 70s and at University of Cincinnati and working at GE and working at Kenner, I was the only black guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I say, oh yeah, well maybe Jimmy would do it. That used to work with me back. Like ain't no black Jimmy back.
You are the Jimmy. Right.
So if anybody's going to, I just said, well, I've got to be the one to do it. Yeah. I wasn't looking for a job. I'm not interested in a job.
Right.
And so my plan is to get this thing, get it going, and get it to revenue, and then we will either flip it into a larger company or flip it into the public markets. Mm-hmm. And then I will bring in someone young, experienced, and they can take over, run it, mm-hmm. and take it from there. Okay. And I'll sit back and be the visionary and the chairman, and enjoy those kids and
right,
those kids.
Right. Fantastic. And that's an amazing thought. If not you, who? And many more of us have to start thinking that way. We're always looking for someone else to do it, but many more of us have to start thinking in the same fashion. If I don't do it, then who? So if we get that mindset, a lot of things are going to happen. A lot of good things are going to happen.
Well, I'll tell you, Michael Jackson knew what he's talking about. Let's begin with the man in the mirror.
There you go. That's where it starts. Okay.
That's where it starts.
Yeah. So esports, a good segue really into the STEM and STEAM industries and careers, because, in every household, kids are playing games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's a natural step to go from playing games to, hey, this is what else is happening in this industry. There are people who design these games. There are people who, draw the storyboards and make up the stories that are happening in these games. All these different careers are branching off of that. So, yeah, it's a good start and a good segue into getting into those careers. When it comes to the esports industry, what do you see in terms of the future of the esports industry, especially as it relates to some of the communities that we're talking about, where those at-risk kids are? What kind of a future do you see there for those communities when it comes to STEM and esports?
Exposure, again.
Right.
We're exposed to the consumer side, mm-hmm. which is come buy this video game, come play this video game.
Right.
And we play and we're very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
We're very good. NBA 2K, we can dunk on the best of them.
Right.
John Madden football,
mm-hmm.
We're the best of them. And you get over there with our Hispanic brothers in FIFA,
mm-hmm. Right.
With the best of them.
Right.
But it's been limited to playing the game.
Consumer.
And so with the things like our magazines, things like our podcast shows, things like your show, mm-hmm. which hasn't existed,
right.
In our community.
Right.
It hasn't existed. You may be the first one,
mm-hmm.
But it's because it's just not that prevalent. And then if they are there, they have a problem. They can't scale. They don't have the support to scale. They don't have the following to scale.
Right.
And we're here to provide that support.
Mm-hmm.
To provide that infrastructure. So if someone has a podcast show, and they can't get traction or make get a large audience, bring it to our network. And we will advertise and promote the network. We'll advertise and promote the show, and we'll help build that audience.
Right.
And so that's the same thing with the magazine, the streaming shows, and so forth. So I see the future of esports mirroring the future of the industry overall. And I think, one, we're going to see more people working remotely. That's coming out of this COVID thing with the Zooms and so forth. A lot of people ain't going to end up going back to work.
Right.
Everybody ain't going to end up going back to the classroom. Some people are going to go remotely, and I think with the same thing with esports, a lot of folks are coming into esports now, but those folks, when COVID goes away, they're going to stay in esports.
Yeah.
And we're going to be right there pushing that STEM, pushing the STEAM, and we're going to recruit and train others to push the STEM and the STEAM, the coaches, the athletic directors, and so forth. Most of the suburban schools already have esports in their schools.
Right.
The inner city schools don't have esports in their schools.
Right.
But we're going to be part of making sure esports gets in those schools.
Exactly.
And making sure that the curriculum and the things, the robotics and the coding, which is why they're part of our league. So they get the robotics, the coding, the esports, the graphic arts, and so forth, and make them aware of it at a young age as to what's behind the game.
Right.
It reminds me, I was speaking to some kids, I think they're 5th, 6th graders, and I was talking about working on the toys, Star Wars, and making Michael Jordan toys, figures, and so forth. And so one of the kids, I think I was talking about LeBron James at the time, and one of the kids says, you worked on all this stuff, well, do you make more money than LeBron James? I'm going to be a basketball player.
Right.
I said, oh, okay, all right. I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, you're thinking about it all wrong. What do you mean? I said, you think, here's where I want you to think about it. You don't want to be LeBron James. Why not? He's making a lot of money. Yeah. I said, you want to be the guy
who pays LeBron James. Right.
What do you think he's making?
Right.
And the kid sat back in his chair, and you can see his head spinning like,
right.
I don't even know how to calculate.
Right, exactly.
He's like, wow, yeah, I want to be that guy. Yeah, a simple conversation like that.
Yeah. Right.
That kid will never think about that differently from now on.
Exactly.
And he'll tell his friends.
Exactly. And
so those little things like that, and that has to come from us.
Right.
That can't come from his white teacher.
Right.
Okay. Right. They're not that interested.
Yeah.
They're interested in whatever the test that the city and the state say the kid got to pass to get to the next grade and so forth. And that's not bad. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're bad people,
right.
but they don't have time.
Exactly. Yeah.
With the size of the classes and all of that stuff to get into those nuances.
Right.
Well, we're going to bring those nuances through our mentor centers. And I know Barack Obama's got a similar type of thing, which we hope to partner with him on some stuff as well. Where, if each of us took one, it'll make a huge difference because one would tell another, would tell another, would tell another.
Right.
Because these kids, they communicate with each other. They talk with each other. They tell each other what they think is cool. They're trendsetters.
Right.
They're trendsetters.
Right.
Well, we want to start a trend of black engineers. We want to start a trend of STEM and STEAM, coding and robotics. We want to start that trend and not just sneaker trends.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Engineers who are making 6 figures. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been great for everyone who's tuned in. You know where you're at. You're at Play to Win. I'm talking to Jacob Miles III of MAP Esports. Jacob, it's been fantastic taking this walk with you, going through the various stages of your career and what you're doing now, which is phenomenal in esports. Hey, thanks for coming on. We sincerely appreciate it. I know our audience is going to gain a great deal of information from it and knowledge from it. So once again, we're going to be inviting you back as this whole thing progresses and unfolds with MAP Esports. So I hope you'll grab onto our invitation, man. Okay?
Well, I want to thank you for doing what you're doing and for jumping in the esports arena. We need your voice. We need your vision and your sensitivity to these at-risk kids. I feel it. I know you have it as well.
Right.
And I want to thank you for what you're doing as well.
All right. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Okay? All right. We're going to have Mr. DJ Yams taking us out. DJ Yams.
Yams G The DJ.
Twerk it, baby.
Round one. Fight.
Oh, snap, that's not what I pressed. That's what's up, that's what's up.
Round two. Fight. KO. Round three. Fight. Yeah.
Yeah, get the kneecaps. Ah.
You win.
Get kneecaps over there.
Get ready for the next battle. Round 1. Fight. KO.
The hell? Why you got his legs open like that?
Fight.
He mad. He mad. He mad, y'all.
Round
mad.
3. Fight.
Oh. Oh, he mad.
Perfect.
Okay. He got mad, y'all.
Nasty. Get ready for the next battle. Round 1. Fight. KO. Round 2. Fight. KO. Round 3. Fight. KO. Round 4. Fight. KO. Final round. Fight. KO. You win.
All right, we're back. You are listening to and viewing Play to Win. I'm your host, Charles Gentry, aka The Oracle. And our next guest is somebody you all need to know. Believe me, Everybody wants to get into business and do their thing and make it happen. But there are some fundamentals that you need to know, marketing, branding, and all those wonderful things. And this is the man who can tell you about all of that. I am talking to Ed Gold. And Mr. Gold does brand partnership with Inverted, okay, the company. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the things that he knows that you should know. And we're just generally going to have a great time, as we always do on Play to Win. Ed, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's a nice evening tonight, so glad to be on the show with you.
There you go, living the life.
Exactly,
trying to. All right. Well, we, as we had talked about a couple of minutes ago, that the gold rush, the wide open, wonderful world of esports, and all that's happening in that growing and booming industry. So let's jump right into it by talking about your introduction into esports. How did you get involved in it?
Well, so up until recently, and just prior to the pandemic, for the 16 years prior to that, I was the marketing director at the State Farm Insurance Companies, overseeing all of their media and sponsorship investments. And so during that time, I've been watching the gaming industry, over the years, whether it's been, things like Farmville, more of your social games, or the growth of 2K Sports and NBA 2K or FIFA and all the console games. And then let alone, what's been, getting even bigger, because, whether it's Minecraft or League of Legends or Overwatch. Interestingly, I have two boys who are now 15 and 14 years old, but I've been watching them since they were 6 and 7 years old, when they were on their iPads watching watching streamers talk about them streaming themselves playing Minecraft when they were playing Minecraft. So I've been watching this with my own little petri dish of my two kids, and recognizing that their media habits are so different than the media habits I had growing up, or even people, just 10 to 20 years ago.
Right.
And when you watch that, when you look at what they're doing, and then when you start seeing the data and you start watching the decline in television viewership by the 18 to 34-year-old audience, and it really took a dive just like 4 or 5 years ago, that it's not that they're not interacting with media, and not interacting with video, they're just getting it from a different device, a different place.
Right.
And along that time, you've seen the rise of Twitch. You've seen the rise of YouTube. You've seen the rise of esports, in gaming. And again, there's esports, which is really more the competition of gaming. But then there's the whole overall gaming category. And that is unto itself much, much bigger than what esports is. But certainly esports gets the hype because that's what people talk about, like people talk about, the NFL and the NBA.
Right.
So I've been watching this, and when you start putting two and two together, you start going, the future is not in television. It's not that television is going away or any of the other media.
Right.
No media has ever gone away over the years. But people's habits change, demographics change, and as I've been watching that through my time at State Farm in what is one of the most competitive industries known to mankind right now, auto insurance. You can't not see an auto insurance ad nowadays from one of the companies, whether it's Geico, Progressive. I had to stay on top of what was going on, and so I've been watching, learning, getting State Farm involved during that time. We sponsored one of the Angry Birds games when that was big, really big, when mobile was really getting big. And so then I've been watching this esports thing, and, I watched some of the videos on YouTube, with them selling out the Staples Center for a League of Legends event.
Right.
And so once you see that, once you go, wait a second.
There's something going on here.
What?
There's something going on here.
There's something going on there. And then and then the next year I took my son, who was I think 12 at the time, I took him to the League of Legends Championships here in North America because I wanted to experience it for myself, but I probably also needed him to interpret for me what was going on because it was not a game I was familiar with, yet he has played it. So, and one, we had a great time, but two, the fandom is no different than you would see when I go to a Chicago Cubs game or a Chicago Blackhawks game. These people are passionate about their passion, and their passion happens to be video games or League of Legends. And so I've been watching this, and I know that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I've been involved in gaming for quite some time, and really over the last 3 years when I was at State Farm, we really got involved in esports and gaming.
Okay.
In a bigger, better way.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Tell us about how you made the transition, to move over into gaming and esports.
Oh, from a personal standpoint?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I left State Farm, and I did that for personal reasons because my family wanted to move back to Chicago to be closer to where our kids are going to high school. I've been talking to another business associate of mine who was starting a company called Inverted. He had wanted to get into this space. He had actually worked at the Viacom networks and selling time with MTV and Comedy Central. And he had seen exactly what I was seeing, which is their ratings were declining, their CPMs were going up, and these are a number of the networks that really target 18 to 34-year-olds.
Right, exactly.
So he was seeing this, and a few months ago he had contacted me about, hey, do you think this would be a good idea if I, got into gaming and esports and started my own company and agency? And I said, yeah, there's no better time than this because, we had talked about it, and I said, you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing, which is this is where the youth of today is going. This is what they're doing. And, and that's where advertisers want to be. When you're a brand, unless, you're selling some pharmaceutical drugs to people over 50, brands want to target that 18 to 34-year-old audience because they are making brand decisions when they are leaving high school or leaving college or after they get their MBA and they're starting out on their own. And so that is a very, very important audience to almost every major advertiser. And so, we had talked about it, and then when I left State Farm, we hooked back up, and for a number of different reasons. And I said, hey, why don't we do this together? Because I come at it from the brand perspective. He's a great sales guy. And so, putting us together because I had been there and done that. And I had taken State Farm, not exactly what you would call an endemic brand in gaming. In fact, it was one of the least likely categories that Nielsen put out a report a few years ago. Financial services and insurance were the least likely categories that gamers wanted to see sponsor their games.
Right.
Certainly they wanted to see Nike and Red Bull.
Red Bull,
and
right.
all the cool brands, right?
right.
But I saw the opportunity and, said, hey, we need to take some of this television money and move it into esports because, again, it's still video. So all I'm doing is moving video money into more video because gaming is still video. And said, we need to get into this before our competitors did, because of the competitiveness of our category.
Right.
So when I moved back up to Chicago, we've gotten together. We started this agency. We've had some pretty good success so far. Nothing fully concrete yet, but it's a very interesting time that we're living through right now. A lot of people are having difficulty making the difficult decisions because we don't know whether there's going to be a college football season.
Right.
We don't know whether there's going to be the NFL. I know they want to, but we're seeing what's happening with baseball,
right,
where one team is already, has to stop playing because of an outbreak of COVID-19 on their team. And certainly the NBA is starting up today or tomorrow. And so, this is a very interesting time, and people are thinking about if there's no football or if there's no basketball or if there's none of this, where else am I going to put my money? And certainly esports is one of those, and gaming is one of those places that, seems to be one, recession proof, and then two, pandemic proof right now, because the gaming numbers are going up. Because people are spending time at home. What else are they doing?
Yeah, and it lends itself to being online,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely. My kids play with their friends, whether it's Fortnite or League of Legends, they're playing online with them. They're still, quote unquote, getting together. They're just not physically getting together. So.
Yeah. Well, you talk about something that is, as I say, very necessary for people to understand. Advertisers are going to spend their dollars, and they want to spend their dollars where they're going to get the most bang for their buck. So all of a sudden, now we have gaming, and those numbers are just going through the roof. It's behind only the NFL, National Football League in terms of viewership and people being connected to it. So when you're talking about leapfrogging over, National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, and the NBA, it certainly is a force to be reckoned with, Give us a little indication of how you're approaching the whole thing. What's kind of your strategy or game plan for moving into the space?
The way I'm approaching it is I'm approaching it as a brand person.
Okay.
I worked on the advertising agency side, worked on a number of major brands, spent 16 years at State Farm, really thinking about, things from a brand perspective, and also, thinking about it as, gaming is so diverse. Okay. I mean, gaming can be, people playing Candy Crush to people playing Call of Duty Warzone. And brands need to think about this from a brand safety standpoint. There's a lot of questions about, first-person shooter games and what that does to people and stuff like that. Even though I don't believe in a lot of that old wives' tales type stuff, but I get you can get the connection of mass shootings to the rise of video games.
Right.
I get it.
Right.
But I think where I was at with State Farm was, let's get in where, this is brand safe. It's the same way we look at television. There are television programs, many companies I've worked with won't advertise in because they aren't where we want our advertising to be seen or where we want our brands to be seen. And the same thing can be said in gaming. I wasn't going to put the State Farm brand in with Call of Duty or any first-person shooter, red blood screen type of games.
Right.
And so that's where we had inverted our really looking at this. We're taking a brand-first approach, not trying to just sell people on gaming, but sell them on gaming that fits within their overall strategy, within their brand's ideas and goals and mission and what they're trying to do and who they're trying to reach. And that's where, I kind of separate esports and gaming, because if you have a female targeted audience and you go, oh, well, gaming and esports, that's all male. It's really not. 50% of the gaming audience is female. It's just what you use and how you target them and which streamers you might, advertise with, or which game, which more of the casual games you might partake in with your advertising. So we're looking at this from a brand first standpoint, which is the way I think, first of all, I think everybody should do that way, but it's really about, who the brand is, what message are they trying to get across? What are their KPIs? Who is their target audience? And then, and then what's their brand safety tolerance? There are brands that are fine with Call of Duty.
Right.
There are brands that aren't, obviously, also.
Right. Okay. Is it a mistake for people who may be advertisers, who may be sponsors? Is it a mistake not to recognize that gaming is divided into so many different areas and segments? If you approach it just by saying, well, I'm going to advertise in gaming, or I'm going to advertise in esports, is that a big mistake?
Yeah, it's a huge mistake. It's like saying, I want to advertise in sports, or I want to advertise in entertainment. people don't. I mean, people certainly say they want to advertise in sports because they want to reach a more male audience. But usually, you say, "I want to be in the NBA," or "I want to be in the NFL," and each one of those leagues target. I mean, while there's certainly a lot of overlap, each one has their own place. The NBA certainly reaches a younger, more multicultural audience than, let's say, Major League Baseball does.
Right.
Major League Baseball tends to skew much older and, more major metropolitan area and whatever. And so the same thing is in gaming. League of Legends reaches a totally different audience than Overwatch because the people who like League of Legends don't automatically like Overwatch.
Right.
Or they don't automatically like Valorant or Call of Duty. Each game is basically its own league, the way to think about it. And so you can look at each game individually to figure out, is this the right place for my brand to reach its target audience and help fulfill my goals and my reach and frequency needs and stuff like that.
Okay. If we go back to the, old school traditional television audiences, we know that different TV shows reached a certain audience, and advertisers would say, okay, I want to reach that audience, so which one of the TV shows is reaching that audience? And they would advertise accordingly. Do you see it being broken up and segmented the same way now when it comes to gaming, that you basically are picking out the game that reaches your audience?
Yeah, I think you're picking out the game and or the streamer.
Okay.
Because I think it, certainly when you think about the games in esports, you tend to get a more younger, more male audience. When you come to gaming and you look at, the different streamers, whether it's Dr. Lupo or Ninja or Little Sia or Valkyrie or whoever it is, each one of them has a different audience.
Right.
Because they appeal to different people, and so, some, like Little Sia, who we sponsored when I was at State Farm, she does Just Dance streams, with that. And so, I don't expect a lot of guys to be watching someone do Just Dance, but she obviously has a great female audience.
Right.
I'm sure she gets a few men watching it too, but she's really good.
Right.
And so yes, I think you need to think about gaming and esports in the same way you think about any medium. Every game reaches a different audience. Every streamer reaches a different audience. And yes, to a certain extent, like when we might buy ABC television, it's seldom that we're just buying one show on ABC. When as an advertiser, we're buying multiple shows on ABC to reach an overall 18 to 49-year-old audience.
Right.
You will do the same thing on Twitch. You will buy streams across multiple streamers, or just look at things based on a target audience driven opportunity, because certainly in the online world, we're able to know that much more about the consumer of who is watching that stream versus, hoping and praying, who's watching television.
Right. We had radio, which was super big, and then TV came along and eclipsed that, and now TV is being eclipsed. What do you see moving forward, looking at the way that gaming is just exploding and growing in numbers? Do you actually see that it will become, if it keeps on this trajectory, that it will become the main thing, just as TV was once and just as radio was once? Is that where gaming is headed?
I don't know about that. I think, I think right now, gaming is right now the entertainment of choice for a certain audience. And certainly as that audience grows, the question will be, are they going to continue watching streamers and gamers? Will their media habits change as they get older? I think it's a little early. The bigger issue from the television standpoint is that what we're also seeing happen is that there's all these, over-the-air platforms, whether it's Netflix and Hulu and now Peacock and HBO Max, and especially the ones that don't take advertising and aren't held to the same standards that an ABC and an NBC and a CBS are held to. And so, my biggest concern as an advertiser is that people are going to these non-advertising video channels, basically, and that's where they're getting their viewing from. I mean, Disney Plus has no advertising on it. I mean, yet they have great programming, and so we as advertisers, and brands love our video, and we certainly want to get it in front of our audience because it helps. That sight, sound, and motion helps differentiate us from our competition, whether it's Flo from Progressive or the Geico Gecko or Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes for State Farm or Mayhem over there at Allstate. It's what helps differentiate our brands. And so we need to be able to put that branding in front of a consumer so that they think well of our brand, so that when they're actually in the market, and whether they're doing a Google search going, hey, yeah, State Farm, or hey, yeah, Allstate, or whoever it is. We don't want them to not know who we are before they get to that Google search.
Yeah. So you're basically putting it in their minds so that when there's a need for it that arises, you're already there in their head.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that is advertising 101 right there.
Right. There you go. Okay. Looking at the sort of food chain in gaming, where does Inverted place itself? Are you mainly working with the advertisers? Are you working with streamers? Kind of where are you in that whole scheme of things?
We are agnostic, but we're an agency. And so where we are going to be working on behalf of brands and then trying to put them into the right places within the esports and gaming environment. So, so just as, whether it's DDB or it's Leo Burnett or whoever from an advertising agency standpoint, we're doing the same thing from an esports and gaming standpoint. Very, very focused on this specific niche.
Got it.
Because the other thing that's interesting about gaming, and when I had the gaming agency I worked with called Rec Global, when I was at State Farm, the CEO of that company and I were talking one day, and we were at a presentation, and we were talking about it, and that this is the first time that something is coming up from the youth versus being handed down. Sports is handed down. Our dads watched it, our moms watched it. I remember watching golf with my dad. I became a big golf enthusiast, or watching the Chicago Cubs with my dad, or the Bears, or whoever it was. That stuff has been handed down to us. This is coming up, which makes it very difficult for people that are inexperienced in it and don't understand it to actually grasp it. And I think that's what we're trying to do from an Inverted standpoint. We're trying to say, that this is something you need to grasp, that this is new, that it isn't the tried and true of television, but what it is where the people are going and where this audience is going. My kids don't watch television. They are never sitting in front of the television. They are sitting in front of their computers or in front of their 5-inch iPhone screens. That's where they are consuming their media, and it's not happening on commercial television.
And you may not be able to change that.
I don't think it will. To your question earlier, I'm not sure what's going to get my kids to watch regular television unless they just, my kids are not huge sports fans. They are huge esports fans. They're huge gaming fans. But I'm not sure what's ever going to drive them to the television as television. It's not where they're consuming their media.
This may be the new normal.
It may be the new normal. Exactly.
A person walks in and, just as you were alluding to, They walk in and they say, hey, you know what? I want to sponsor something. I want to put my brand in front of some people, but I don't have a clue what's going out there in esports. These are the people who can walk up to you and say, hey, look, I want to get into this. I want to get my brand before an audience. I want to gain some viewership, get some market share. Can you help me?
The answer is yes, we can help you. Yeah, I mean, because to a certain extent, I've been there and done that. I've done partnerships with League of Legends and Overwatch and the NBA 2K League and Rocket League.
Right.
Done partnerships with Dr. Lupo directly. We did a whole charity stream effort through Twitch. We partner with Twitch on a number of things. And a number of others, whether it was Fandom and back in the day Mixer and a number of others. And so, I think what we as Inverted bring to the table is we're just not gamers. My partner John he's a much bigger gamer than I am.
Okay.
I'm not good with the dual joysticks. I'm not much better with the single joystick. But I think what we bring to it is again that brand mentality of we've been there, we understand what's going on in the marketplace. We're not trying to sell you something, but we're trying to we're evangelizing for this because we're seeing the future and this is the future, or this is part of the future. It's not the whole thing.
Right.
It's not like television is not going to go away. Just because television came about, radio is still around.
Right.
And the radio people will tell you this is the best time in radio ever. And print hasn't gone away. It's certainly not doing great, but it hasn't gone away. Newspapers are still around. And so this is just part of it's just there's more.
Right.
There's just more media for people to consume, which makes it more interesting for how you're going to go about reaching them. And we certainly think for this 18 to 34-year-old audience, if you're not in gaming, if you're not in esports, by God, get in.
Yeah.
Get in.
Right.
And certainly get in now, because this is where the people are going. This is what the people are consuming during this time. And yeah, there are certain things do I expect some of the highs to stay up here? No, probably not. But I don't expect it to go all the way back down to where it was before the pandemic.
Right.
And we've seen a lot of we certainly saw iRacing do extremely well when NASCAR was not able to actually be out there, or the NBA 2K League on ESPN. That probably would not have happened except the NBA wasn't playing.
Right.
But now that the NBA is playing, and now that the NASCAR drivers are back out there driving, you're most likely not going to see that level of interest in those particular esports, because you can watch the real people play.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at this. When we talk about gaming and when we talk about esports, we're not just talking about something local or regional. We're talking about a global happening. How do sponsors and advertisers, and how do even people who are going into esports or gaming, how do you take the whole global thing? Because, with radio, it was targeting, a local audience. With television, it was a wider audience, but still you're dealing with your own state sometimes, or that area, or you're dealing with your own nation. Now you're talking about something that's around the globe that you're dealing with. How do you approach that?
Well, you have to approach it very carefully. State Farm is a U.S. only based company, and so it doesn't do us any good to have our ads, someone to see them in England or in China.
Right.
There's no true huge benefit to us. So the best example is probably League of Legends right now through Riot Games. The way they've broken up their leagues is they have a North American league. Then they have a league in Europe, and they have a league in Asia and Australia and all these different places where so it's different streams of of games.
Okay.
So State Farm was not a worldwide sponsor of League of Legends. We sponsored the North American League of Legends efforts because that's where we wanted to be. Now, MasterCard, totally different story. They looked at it as this is a worldwide opportunity, and they are a worldwide sponsor for League of Legends. And I think it really depends on which brands. But there are definitely ways to allow you to really just have your advertising, in a lot of cases, just reach the audience that you want to reach. But there's certainly when, the London Royal Ravens are matched up against the Chicago Huntsmen in the Call of Duty League, you're going to get people in Europe and people in the States watching that matchup. And it will really depend on how it's broadcast and how you can split up the audience. But there are definitely ways to do it. It's just, some are easier and some you just are getting the benefit of having your ads seen across the world.
Okay. All right. Well, I am Charles Gentry, a.k.a. The Oracle. You are viewing and listening to Play to Win. I'm talking to my guest, Mr. Ed Gold. So when you're dealing with it from the other side, you're someone who wants to build, a podcast, or you're someone who's live streaming on Twitch, what's kind of the ABCs of approaching it from that point of view and looking to at some point monetize what you're doing? What are some of the things that person needs to think about?
I wish I could tell you, and that's not exactly my area of expertise about what makes someone become a very popular streamer. I know in talking with Ben Lupo, actually Dr. Lupo, he will say the thing that made him most popular was he killed Ninja during a fight in Fortnite.
Okay.
And people thought that was so cool about how he did it. He got all these additional people to come stream with him. Or a lot of what happens is that, one streamer becomes friendly with another streamer and, they bring each other up or someone brings someone else along.
Right.
So, obviously, with anything, and again, this is just me talking off the top of my head, I think originality, bringing something new and different to it, and whether that's just your personality or what games you're playing or how you're approaching it. I think that there's, obviously the space is getting more and more crowded.
Right.
It's not like, so, but you look at it, it's very interesting. We worked with some streamers. I'm like, how did this person get that many people following them?
Right.
Because they just weren't that intriguing. And then you get others and it's like, oh my God, I totally get it, People like this person, they got a good personality, they talk about themselves, you get to know them. And so, it's very interesting, and I'm sure that, most streamers are going, oh my God, this is unbelievable that we are able to monetize this and make money, and some are making a lot of money at this.
Right, right. Okay.
And certainly that all started, with the streamers on YouTube, back, I would say back in the day, but it's not that long ago.
Right, right.
And so, and you just look at, how much money Microsoft paid Ninja to switch over from Twitch to Mixer for about 6 months, and then before they shut down Mixer.
And killed it, right?
And they still owed Ninja all that money. So.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm sure Microsoft is probably good for it.
I think they're okay.
Yeah, okay.
I think they're going to be all right. I don't think it's going to affect the stock. I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, when you are, getting into the industry, and certainly when you become an integral part of the industry, how does a person grow their brand? You're talking about brand partnerships. How does a person grow their brand? What's the formula there?
You mean their own personal brand?
Yeah, their personal brand.
Well, I mean, I've been in the industry for, a little over 30 years. And I think what it is that, one, be a good person.
Okay.
Respect people, learn from others, listen to others, and, and just be a good person. One of the things I've always prided myself on is I return phone calls. I return emails. Because I want people to come to me with new ideas. Right. And so I figure if I return their call, well, they're most likely to come to me first because they know I'll answer them. Right. And so I think it's just be a good person, learn and absorb everything that you can, about the industry you're in, participate in it, or at least have kids who participate in it so you can learn from them. Right. Right. And really just, just try to be smart and again, learn everything you can, because people want to, this is the media industry, and there's so much media out there, and in gaming. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Think about all the different games out there, right, and all the different platforms. And to be someone in gaming, you have to know them all. You have to be the person that someone goes to and says, "You're my guy," or "You're my gal." You know this, right? And so I'm going to listen to you, right? And so you want to be somebody that someone listens to. Okay.
Again, when we look at traditional media, and it was easy, we knew the ABCs, NBCs, CBSs, we knew the Fox when they came in, now you look at the landscape, and you're saying, okay, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, LinkedIn, it's like, where do you start?
And just keep going down.
It just keeps going, right?
Right. I mean, when you think about like programmatic advertising, there's over 400,000 sites that accept advertising on them. Right. Nobody knows them all. The great thing about programmatic advertising is it allowed us to target different, targeted an audience. Didn't matter what site they were on. We were looking for an audience based on some action they did, or demographic they belonged to, or psychographic, or whatever it is, or what like they had on Facebook. And so I think that it's very difficult to know everything. Certainly, there are some of those companies that have the lion's share of where media time is spent. And one of the things, in the programmatic world, I try to focus more on, what are the bigger sites that we want to be on? Again, playing the brand safe thing, because when you try to know you can't know 400,000 sites. Right. You can know the top 1,000, right, possibly. Right. You can learn them. You can know maybe the top 2,000.
Yeah, but who's best in breed?
Who's best in breed? And that's where those top 2,000 sites are probably the ones getting 90 to 95% of the audience. Right. So do you really need to worry about these other guys? Because, we as advertisers run into problems with our ads showing up on alt-right sites or other sites that you wouldn't want your ads to show up on. But we don't know. We're just following the person we think we want to sell our product to. But I think in this world, this whole area of brand safety is extremely important, because if things go wrong much faster. Right. Now.
And everybody hears about it.
Everybody hears about it, and they hear about it quickly. Right. I mean, just look at what's happening with Facebook this month, and all the people boycotting Facebook because they don't agree with their philosophy of how they let news out there or let people post stuff. Right. And it's a very interesting time, and that stuff can happen, so much faster. It's not like you're waiting for someone to write a letter in to say, I object to your ad on the Sunday night news. Right. Now it's posted on their Twitter and boom, and it's liked and reposted, and
Right.
and it's a snowball.
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, I am talking to Ed Gold of Inverted, and we've been having some great conversation about marketing, branding, and a whole lot of other really important things in esports and gaming. To finish with this, Ed, where do you see esports going as it progresses, down the line, year to year? And within that, where do you see Inverted going?
Well, I think esports is going to continue to grow. I think what you're, when my son's high school has an esports team,
Right.
and colleges have esports team, I think people are going to see this as more. This is becoming real. Watch a lot of documentaries where these kids were, just playing video games, and their parents were like, "What are you doing with your life?" And then they became a pro gamer, and they were making
Right.
hundreds of thousands of dollars, making more than their parents were making. And so, I see it continuing. I see this is continuing. The interesting thing is what game is it going to be? What is this? Does League of Legends have the staying power of the NFL, of football,
Right.
or is something else going to come around? It wasn't too long ago that, in the Battle Royale world, PUBG was huge, and then overnight Fortnite came out, and it just put, PUBG to the side, and Fortnite became the game, and then Apex Legends came out, and everybody got all excited about it, but then that excitement stopped, after a couple weeks, and people just went back to Fortnite.
Right.
And even my kids, once told me, "Dad, Fortnite's dead." Fortnite's not dead, but the interesting thing is that this audience can move on to something new very quickly.
Right.
Versus, there's baseball, there's football, there's basketball, there's soccer.
Right.
Yes, it's very hard to create a new sport per se.
Right.
But certainly it's easier, I guess, to create a new video game. So I see this. I see it continuing. It's very interesting. Again, it's not like there are some kids that didn't like sports before. I just use my kids who don't, watch any of the big four sports, but certainly participate in gaming. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Certainly, a lot of sports are aging upward.
Right.
There's not a lot of them are aging downward. Esports, has an average age of 24 years old versus the NBA, which is 42.
Right.
And everything else is above 50 for the most part. And so I think we're all going to have to watch it. And then from the Inverted side of things, I think we have a great opportunity. I think there is, everybody, because of the focus on gaming and esports due to the pandemic, I think it's got a lot more people thinking about, what am I going to do here? I think you also have what is going to be an interesting thing is that, how much new fall programming is actually going to be on any of the networks,
right.
Especially if sports might not be there, because there's not a lot of production going on right now.
Exactly.
Or almost none. And so I think that it's going to be interesting. And I think from an Inverted standpoint, I think we have a great opportunity to talk with brands about where gaming and esports is going and what it is, and then where we think it's going to be in the future.
Right.
And I think the future's bright.
All right. So. Excellent. Well, hey, it's been great talking to you. Appreciate all the fantastic information you've given out, and I'm sure our audience appreciates it as well. We're going to be watching intently to see exactly where gaming and esports is going, as well as now where Inverted is going, because as you say, it's a wide open field and the future is bright, especially for what you're bringing to the table, because a whole lot of people need to know what you know, Ed.
They absolutely do. You're absolutely right, Charles. Charles, thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate your time.
All right. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again. As usual, Mr. DJ Yams, take us home.
Traffic has never been this hot. Sit back and trip. This is the Traffic Jams with Yams.
This is power.
Yams G The DJ. Power. Yams G The DJ.